And it's recording, and we're all set. All right. One of these days, all the technical skills around here will be organized and run as smoothly as possible. You won't even know that anything is happening. And when that day comes, it'll be the day I retire, because something will always go wrong. Somebody will always proclaim their perfection. So today is Ocean Sunday. And as I was researching for today's sermon, I came across a good opener. And so the question is, has anybody, whoa, this is, okay. Of course it's not going to cooperate. Like I said, the day that everything works. The program is stuck. There we go. Now it's thinking. Okay. So, has anybody ever been close enough to the ocean to put your feet in it? Yeah, if I ask that question somewhere in Ohio, I might get no's. All right, so I want to hear, what was it like for you?
Cold.
Cold? So you were in the northern part, over here. Nobody was sticking their feet in Florida water, huh? So what do you remember about being at the ocean? Sounds, smell, sand. Wide open space. It goes on forever.
Birds.
Birds. So you have abundant life going on. You got the seas roar, the sound that you hear when you come towards the water. It sounds powerful, right? Especially when it's angry, as we like to say. Not that the ocean can ever be angry. Not that I know of. People ride the waves. People fish in the ocean. We also now are aware of how we have abused the ocean. There's a floating island of plastic the size of a small continent. That young kids are discovering ways in high school science projects that people are now going to be using to clean that up. So thank God for our youth and their innovative ways of thinking. So anybody here ever been under the ocean? Scuba? Snorkel? Submarine? Anybody submarine? Okay, no naval. I'd say hello to our Navy guys, but all right. Our gals. But when you're under the ocean, what do you see under the ocean? Fish and color, and all sorts of different life that you don't see up here. So I have a couple of fun facts about the ocean. The ocean covers 71% of the Earth's surface in one global interconnected body. Technically, there is one ocean. We call them by different names, but there is one ocean. 71% of the surface. It contains 321 million cubic miles of water, or 3.5 times 10 to the 20th gallons. The ocean, this one big interconnected ocean, contains 97% of the Earth's water. At its deepest point, it's over 6 miles deep. And there's been an actual census of marine life. And it estimates that there are about 250,000 different species in the oceans. And the most amazing part is less than 5% of the Earth's ocean has been explored. So we've identified 250,000 different species and only 5% of that vastness. So this Sunday, there are traditional sets of readings for Ocean Sunday. And as on any Sunday, there is a set of 3, Old Testament, New Testament, an epistle, sometimes a psalm. One of the old readings is God gets angry with Job from the Old Testament. And the Message version is kind of interesting because God is really, really confronting Job. He says, so have you gotten to the bottom of things yet? And now, finally, he says, why do you confuse the issue? Why do you talk without knowing what you're talking about? Pull yourself together, Job. Up on your feet, stand tall. I have some questions for you, God says. And I want some straight and honest answers. Where were you when I created the earth? Tell me, since you know so much. Who decided on its size? Certainly you know that. Who came up with the blueprints and the measurements, and how was its foundation poured? Who set the cornerstone? While the morning stars sang chorus and all the angels shouted praise, who was there? Who took charge of the ocean when it gushed forth like a baby from the womb? That was me, God says. I wrapped it in soft clouds and tucked it in safely at night. Then I made a playpen for it, a strong playpen so it couldn't run loose. And I said, stay here, this is your place. Your wild tantrums are confined to this place. It's a beautiful image. The water being God's wild child birthed and wrapped in swaddling clouds. But this also calls us out for, honestly, how much do we know about the ocean? But yet, how do we care for our sister, the ocean? Now, you hear I'm using sibling language here, because the scripture here describes the ocean as a child of God, as are we, therefore. And from our sister, the ocean, all life flowed out of it. Biblically and scientifically speaking, perhaps this is why we use water in baptism. Maybe this is why Jesus invited Peter out into the deep. Can you imagine being out fishing all night long and nothing to show for it? That would be mine. I'd never catch anything. I learned to hate fishing early on, even when I lived on a lake. I would struggle to reel in the fish that was fighting me so hard and it was always turned out to be that big. Meanwhile, my brother was pulling in fish like this, my dad's catching largemouth bass, my neighbor's catching pike, and I'm still catching this. I enjoyed the meal afterwards, but I had no point for me to go fishing because I would never catch anything. I had the same relationship with fish that I had with kites. We just didn't get along. So these guys have been fishing all night and they caught nothing. But the worst thing is that doesn't just mean there's no food for them or for their families. It also meant there's no food for the villagers. This was their profession. And the village and the community came to depend upon them for their meals. So many people are depending on your catch and you caught nothing. So you're dejected, depressed, tired. Nothing else to do but to reel the nets back in and clean them. And suddenly here comes Jesus with a crowd following him. Many of the people you know because they're from your own neighboring villages in your town. Jesus gets into your boat and asks you to put out a little way so he can teach. Nothing better to do, I ain't got no fish to clean. It's interesting, well, at least to me, that we know nothing of what Jesus' message was that day. There is no hint as to what he had to say. What we do know is that as soon as he was finished, he turned to Simon Peter and said, put out into the deep, let down your nets and catch something. And then of course, Peter, being the perfect guy he was, lets his brain engage before his heart and states, we've fished the whole night long, we've been laboring and caught nothing. This is just foolish. Then his heart engages. He says, but at your word, I'll let my nets down. So Jesus basically had Simon as a captive audience. Simon alone was in the boat with him, and Simon saw and heard all. Jesus asked Simon to row out a little way, sits down to teach, and as he finishes, Jesus asks Simon to go out and cast your net deep. We see how stubborn Simon can be, and even though he's kind of practical, this hasn't worked all night, it's not going to work now. In that moment, he knows enough to call Jesus master and goes out and catches a bunch of fish in spite of his skepticism. So much so, it's about to sink his boat and that of the others who were there as well. Now that could be the end of the story. Peter has a miraculous catch, all the people are fed, no one is hungry, physically or spiritually. But Peter falls down on his face and says, get out of here, Jesus. Literally, get out of my neighborhood. You don't belong here. I don't want you here. Go away. Peter is more comfortable with a fixed failed reality. We have worked all night long, we haven't got any fish. He is more comfortable with what he knows. He's more comfortable with what he is dealing with now. More comfortable with nothing than the wild, unexplainable, uncontrollable life of faith that Jesus invites him into. The kingdom of God is a terrifying thing. It's wild, like the proud waves of the ocean. It's uncontrollable, like two boats sinking with fish. It's full of life, like the empty tomb on Easter morning. Get out of here, Jesus. I'm not up for this. I'm not good enough for this. Like Peter, we are often more comfortable on the shore with what we know than in trusting the wild, surprising abundance that Jesus brings. So, when it comes right down to it, we're often better with Good Fridays than we are with Easter Sundays. We are good at the worry. We are good at the watching. We are good at the analyzing. This country's going downhill. They are dangerous. What would I do if, like, fill in the blank. We are good at sitting in darkness that we know. What really scares us is the promise of Easter. The unmanageable, the mysterious, the powerful, the grace that knows no bounds and can't be contained. The deep water of God's infinite love. That's enough. Just the concept of it is enough to make us say, get out of that neighborhood, Jesus. I'm not up to this. But life and God and miracles cannot be contained. God cannot be held back. So Jesus responds, don't be afraid. Hold on to that hope that got you into the boat right now. Remember that there is an abundance and freedom in God. There is God's love and provision, even in the darkest of night. There can be community and caring neighbors. Remember that line of Julian Norwich, all will be well, and all will be well, and all manner of things will be well. We don't know what Jesus said to the people. Jesus has said nothing to Simon Peter except move out into deeper water. Let's get out of this shallow place and go deeper. That's the invitation to us, to go deeper. As we enter into the season of creation, as we walk into the waters of Ocean Sunday, we know how dangerous and risky new adventures can be. We know we are called to move out of our safety zone on the shore. We know we are called to move away from, well, what can I do? Or if I do anything, it won't make a difference. We're called to shift out of that thinking. One of the purposes of the season of creation is to draw our attention to how we care for the earth and drastic environmental changes that are happening. And oftentimes in the face of the enormity, we reply with, well, what can I do? And if I do anything, it won't make a difference. The very lake, Gennesaret, you may not be familiar with, or you are. It's also known as Lake Galilee, the Sea of Galilee. Today, that lake is suffering extreme shrinkage because of climate-induced drought and overuse as the only fresh water source in the area. How do we change that? Well, Israel has decided most of their drinking water now comes from desalination plants. They have 5. They're adding 2 more that are going to strictly to dump fresh water into the feeding streams to the Sea of Galilee. Their goal is to, by 2020, to have it replenished as a freshwater reservoir. That is good stewardship of God's given water. And since it is Ocean Sunday, we have all these pictures of what plastics are doing in our ocean, how climate change is affecting the waters and the coral reefs. Though it is but a short drive to the ocean, many of us don't feel connected to it and wonder what we can do. What can we do as inlanders to preserve our ocean and be responsible for our system? Well, luckily, I don't have all the answers, but National Geographic had a few. You can mind your carbon footprint and reduce energy consumption, much as we have with solar panels on our community center. Leave the car behind now and then and walk. I could use to do a bit more of that myself, probably. Switch from compact fluorescent light bulbs, take the stairs, bundle up or use a fan to avoid oversetting your thermostat. Make safe and sustainable seafood choices. A lot of our restaurants now are proud to post that they resource only from sustainable sources. Global fishing populations have been depleted due to demand, and so we need to be aware of what we're consuming, how we consume it. Use fewer plastic products. Give up straw. You know, it seems like such a small thing, and yet straws cause so much damage because they can get into animals' systems in any open. So there are reusable straws. It means you have to wash it out now and then, which means using water. So it's a give and take. Or you can just sip from the edge of the glass. What did we do before straws? Help take care of the beach. Whether it's the ocean beach or your community beach, participate in cleanup days. It helps to bring our awareness to how we use and how we care for our resources around us. And go even further by encouraging others to respect the marine environment and by participating in local beach cleanups. Try not to purchase items that exploit marine life. Certain products contribute to the harming of fragile coral reefs and marine populations. Such things as coral jewelry or tortoiseshell hair accessories, and especially shark products. One I found interesting as a pet owner, it says be an ocean-friendly pet owner. Read your pet food labels and consider seafood sustainability when choosing a diet for your pet. That never even crossed my mind until I read this. And never flush cat litter, because it has pathogens that are harmful to sea life. And avoid stocking your home aquariums with wild-caught fish. I don't think I know anybody who would do that anyways. These days, we know infections can come from wild-caught fish. Support organizations that are working to protect the ocean life. Many institutes, most of our aquariums are supporting ocean life with research and preservation practices. Influence change in your community. Research ocean policies. And when you decide to travel on the ocean, do it responsibly. Responsible boating, kayaking. Never throw anything overboard. Be aware of the marine life and waters around you. If you're set on taking a cruise for your next vacation, do some research for the most eco-friendly companies and support them in their practices. And the final rule seems so obvious. Educate yourself about our oceans and our marine life and our inland waters as well. Water is a sacred gift and a necessity for us to survive. And all life on Earth is connected to the ocean and its inhabitants. The more you learn about the issues facing this vital system, the more you'll want to help to ensure its health. And then share that information. Acknowledge that we, as children of God, are sisters and brothers to the ocean, which is a child of God, as proclaimed in the Old Testament reading. And take the time to care for the earth as much as you care for each other. And we can make this place better for our children and our grandchildren and their children yet to come. The oceans are our gift. The ocean is the gift of life. And we are gifted to share in that life. May God's blessing be that we just take a little bit more time to just stop and think and know whatever you do does make a difference.